Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CarnivorousGrama Speaks. Tonight, I am super excited to be here with Scott. Hey, Scott. It's
Howdy,
so good
howdy.
to have you here. I'm so glad that you took me up on my offer to come over and have a little chit chat. I feel like I already know you because I've been on your live stream so many times, but I wanted to kind of Grandma Speaks and have you have a chance to meet my audience and us to get to know you a little better. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to be here too. I mean, I think you sent this invitation out a hot minute ago, and it's been amazing to watch your channel grow and watch people interact with you. And I know you've been super, super busy in investing in other people, and that's really cool. That's I think, a great hallmark and testament to you, but also for our carnivore community.
I agree. There's nothing like the carnivore community.
Hmm.
Absolutely wonderful people. Everybody that I have met has been so gracious and so just awesome. So, Scott, I would love it if you would just take a few minutes and go ahead and introduce yourself and let's talk a little bit about how you got started on your carnivore journey.
Okay, well, as you can tell from the gray hairs, I've been around for a hot minute. I'm a newly minted 62-year-old, so I'm finally able to, if I wanted to apply for that a golden egg there that they call Social Security. But I think we're going to wait a minute on that one.
Okay.
Um, had a very blessed life. Been a very had a varied life, in as much as how do I say it? Well, if we talk about ourselves, we talk about our life, and if we've had successes, it can sound pretty self-serving. So I'm cautious in that. But
Mm-hmm.
I was born into a military family, a military brat. Moved around the country, did military thing myself. Moved around the country and the world. I was a weather forecaster in the United States Air Force for 20 years. I love to talk about the weather. Um, and I've been out in business and doing things. And I really don't know whether I have an eclectic taste or I just can't hold a job. No, I've done a lot of different things along the way, and I've really enjoyed what I'm doing. Some of those things have been in the area of acting. So I've done some acting, and when I was younger, I did the music theater type thing, and got into a few roles, or I don't mean roles as in acting roles, but positions or activities within some fairly large major motion pictures. And but then I realized, as we often do, that your passion may not, or maybe should not, be your profession, because
Mm-hmm.
your passion um, is generally going to fall into an area where there's a lot of competition. Could be even like a YouTube channel. So if you want to be a baseball player or a football player, how many of them go out and start in little leagues, and how many
Mm-hmm.
get to be pros, right?
Right.
And so in acting, I realized I wasn't going to make much money. I'd be thin, but I wasn't going to make much money. So I joined the military, did that thing. Along the way, picked up some education, and then I started doing other things. And then one day I was complaining about something, and my wife called my bluff. And I ended up running for office, being successful,
Mm.
elected as a state senator. And I did that for a term and a half. And then I said, okay, we're done with that. So now time for a change of venue. And I went ahead and moved to Alabama from Nebraska. And I've been here in Alabama for about, 11 years myself, or maybe 11 years, and did some different things working here. Did some commercials locally. Went to Atlanta. Did a few things in Atlanta for some web series, and finally ended up doing something I'm really proud of being a part of. It's a lot of fun. Maybe not the most redeeming, but fun. And it was a web series
Mm.
that's done pretty well in the small independent arena. And so
Okay.
I just played a bad guy. I'm about 6'5", about 300 pounds. So I do bad guy well. And
Okay, what web series is it? We might
it's
want to
called
go and check you out.
Bermuda, like the island,
Okay.
Bermuda City.
Chitty.
City, like in the
Bermuda
CITY.
City.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
it's kind of like a futuristic Batman, Robin, got a lot of things going on in it.
Oh my gosh, I love that kind of stuff. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, and so I just play a bit. I just play a bit role, but every. Do you remember the Beverly Hillbillies?
Mm-hmm.
And every time Mary Ellen, or Ellie Mae, every time Ellie Mae would come on, there'd be a little bit of music, right?
Yes.
So you knew, oh, Ellie Mae's coming on. Well, every time I show up, something bad happens to
Oh.
somebody. Yeah, I'm kind of like I'm kind of like an enforcer, bad guy. So, but you never really see anything too much. It's not really all that graphic. But anyway,
Okay. That
and that's pretty
sounds
much my life.
awesome.
Oh, I'm married, 3
Okay.
children, 7
Great. Oh
grandchildren.
my goodness.
I'm blessed beyond all imagination.
That is awesome. I have 11 grandkids. I don't know if you
Amen.
knew that. We are definitely fully blessed with all those grandbabies. Isn't
Yeah.
it just amazing to be a grandparent? It's like the best.
Well, I tell you what, the post office loves us. Amazon loves us. 'Cause
Uh-huh.
all my family, because of the military thing, my children live all over. I have them in South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kentucky. So,
Okay.
children they're everywhere.
Wow. So, first of all, I want to say thank you for your service
Oh,
and
thank
the service of your family. Thank you very, very much. And I know that you said that you're currently in a web series, but let's just go right to the acting career because I was so intrigued when I heard this little bit of information on your live stream one night. So, can you tell us a little bit about
Okay,
like
sure.
one of your acting gigs that you did and what was that all about? And
Sure, sure. Now, first and foremost, let me make sure I set the table. I'm no great actor. I have an IMDb page or whatever, but it's not because of anything more than that's what you do. That's the accoutrement of the craft, right? So I ended up in a movie named Dune, Frank Herbert's sci-fi book, and it was the first one they did, and they had a location filming that was just south of El Paso, Texas. That's where I grew up. And I got a role, and I played a Fremen. I was like an extra, glorified extra. And we ran around in suits in a real desert in the real heat.
oh my
And it
God.
was really tough. And anyway, so I did that. And it was the second movie. So there was another movie before that I don't talk a lot about. It was called Fandango.
Oh, okay.
It
I've
has a
heard of
gentleman
that.
has an actor or two in it you might know, like Kevin Costner and
Mm-hmm.
Judd Nelson. And
Wow.
Kevin and I became friends for a while there, and we kind of talked a lot over the years, and he offered me an opportunity to be in another film called Silverado, but
Okay.
instead of doing that, I joined the military because I
Oh,
realized again, I'm not going to make it. You don't make a living as a featured extra. So,
right.
but yeah, so I did it, and here's the thing. I think so. If you all know anything about the Dune series, they had the Fremen, and they would fight, and they would use this thing called a Chris knife, which was basically like a tooth from one of the worms, right? And
Mm-hmm.
here's one of the Chris knives actually used in the movie. There we go.
That
And
is so cool.
I have it because it's broken. So what happened is this was a broken set piece. Now, when we were on the set, they kept very close track of everything, but this was broken, and this left Mexico with me. So
Wow.
that's a little testament to something for people who know and care.
Yeah, when I heard that on your live stream, I was like, what? The
Yeah,
original Dune, like there's a whole new Dune out now, but The original
Excellent.
Dune. I'm gonna just pop this up because Sandra's here with us tonight, and I'm so
Hey,
happy that she's here. I know that she doesn't spend a whole bunch of time on YouTube, YouTube watching these, the carnivore content. So I'm
right.
very happy that she's here. And so she's saying that her daughter is an actress, but she's
Hmm.
a nanny right now, though she's also a catechist to 7 and 8 year olds making their first Holy Communion.
Oh,
It's
nice.
beautiful. And she also said, "Thank you for your service." And she said her daughter turned out many roles because of our faith, turned down many roles because of our faith. And I can
Yeah.
definitely understand that. Absolutely. So that blew my mind when you said that you were on Dune. I love that movie. I'm like I love like sci-fi types of stuff, but those
Hmm.
gritty, I guess I would call it,
Yeah.
type of a movie. And it was kind of crazy too, though. It had some crazy stuff in it, but very, very interesting. I thought that was fascinating that you were part of that. So thanks for sharing
Oh,
and also
absolutely.
for showing us your Chris knife. That's absolutely very, very cool. So let's get back to talking a little bit more about carnivore. And
Oh.
so I know that your YouTube is called Carnivore Scott. So I
Hmm.
would love to hear a little bit about what led you towards a carnivore lifestyle, and kind of how are you doing with your carnivore?
Carnivore. Okay, so I don't know. I would say 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I started with um, looking at things. I've always had a fascination with medical stuff. When I was in the military, one of my extra roles was a combat lifesaver, and from that role, I got the chance to investigate more, and I found it terribly interesting. Um, did my military time and got out. And first thing I did getting out of the military is my wife and I, my beautiful wife Jackie. She, my much better half. We've celebrated 34 or 33 years of marriage this year, and thank you. And she and I opened an ice cream shop, a good old fashioned mom and pa ice cream shop, and hard ice cream. So banana splits and floats and shakes and all the good stuff. Well, I ate a lot of the mistakes, and pretty soon I got pretty, yeah, and pretty soon I got pretty big, and
Mhm.
so I've been fighting this weight battle for a number of years. Well, I I don't know, maybe I'm thinking back now, and I'm thinking it's like 6 years ago. I was watching some stuff that had information on it, but it was more about Dr. Stephen Finney, and it was on being in ketosis. So Dr. Stephen Finney, and I was listening to what he had to say, and I was interested in it. And then from him, it went to seeing Sean Baker, and in January meat month, right? It's
Mhm.
carnivorous January.
Yep.
So I started doing it, and I enjoyed it, but I did have some of the normal issues, primarily um, uh, lack of electrolytes. So, when you run into the wall and you start having those issues, that's the flu, right? The keto flu. No, no bueno.
Yep.
So anyway, time keeps going by, and I keep watching people do things, and I'm watching all sorts of Dom Diagostino. I watch a lot of his things, and then Jason Fong, and of course, when you start watching those things and watching the low carb down under, low carb Breckenridge. So I'm watching all these things, and now I'm starting to really get into PubMed and researching things. I'm still a big fella, and finally, 2 years ago, I want to say, I really started to go carnivore. But, you know, the habits we form over all the decades are extraordinarily difficult to overcome. And if you're not looking at the current underneath those habits, uh,
Mhm.
success is difficult. I'm not saying it can't happen, But I liken it to saying, the greater the degree of change that you're looking for, probably you're going to have the greater degree of impetus. So to stop a fast car, you need a lot of brakes, a lot of energy, right?
Right.
To a slow one, you can just put your hand out, right? So if you're
Hmm.
into a high speed wreck with your metabolic health, it could take a major thing like a heart attack
Yeah.
or something like that to wake you up, to jolt you to make the changes. But I didn't have that. So it took years. And finally, about a year ago, I decided, about a year and a half ago, to do it. And I thought, why not do my own YouTube channel? And I started to piddle and do. And next thing you know, Carnivore Scott is out there. And could I have done a different name or whatever? But you know how hard it is to find a name in YouTube land? It's like, and they tell you don't use your real name, but along the way, being in movies and being elected, I mean, it's not hard to find me. I'm being Googleable. So, there we are. So I did the channel, and I grew up. That got my 500 people in there, and we're real close to that, and doing the things I need to do. But YouTube has a very demanding component to it of your time. So I still do some things. I love to do the lives much more than the videos. The videos are work. And
Right.
so I really like to do the lives.
I like the lives too. Lives are much simpler. They're very straightforward because you go
Mhm.
live.
Right?
Whatever happens, happens. You don't generally have to go back and edit those.
No.
So that's really, really nice. Um, so you started your carnivore about a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
So did you realize any benefits or anything like that? Did anything change when you went carnivore?
Glad you asked that. Okay, so there's I I kind of look at it in two general arenas. Like a bifurcation is involved here, in as much as there's carnivore for weight loss, carnivore, and under that carnivore for weight loss is maybe um image, like how your pants feel, those non-scale victories, but it's still pretty much um something to do with the physicality of your body, right? Or it can be for health reasons. And mine started out for physicality. I wanted to weigh less, fit in regular pants. I really can't buy a lot of clothes off the rack in most places. I've got to go for the big pants, and stuff like that. So what am I going to now? That's not to say that I am like grossly out of shape. Being as tall as I am, I carry my weight pretty
Mhm.
good, and kind of a problem because if you carry it well, everybody says, "No, you look good. You're good. You're fine. What are you worried about?" Well, no, I'm not fine.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but so when I did it, yes, I lost weight. I lost that, that initial water weight goes off real quick, and the inflammation reduces, and you feel better. But staying with it, that's always been the challenge. I'll go really well for 90 days, but then something
Mhm.
like the holidays comes along and blows it. And I don't just fall off the wagon, I fall off the entire earth. I was washing fruitcake down with eggnog, so that's it's not going to win. It's not going to work.
Mhm.
But along the way, I did run into some medical problems.
Okay.
And I'm very blessed to have the VA because of the military time, and they can take care of me. So I can get blood work done pretty quickly and pretty exhaustively. Anyway, long short of it is, it came down with a condition called portal vein hypertension. So
Wow.
portal vein hypertension, your portal vein is where all of the lymphatic fluids dump into your blood flow right at the liver. And just do you mind if I back up a little bit?
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay,
Mhm.
so when you eat your food goes into your stomach, goes through the digestion preparation thing, goes into your intestines, different places in the intestines, different things are going on, and there's names for every segment, right? But what happens is when in the small intestines, when your fat through lipases and other types of actions are broken down, your fat is absorbed across the boundary layer, okay, into the villi. We all know about the villi in the small intestines, right? The little fingers, right? All the stuff going by it. Well, if you take one villi and you were to take it and map it out, on the outside of it are capillaries, and those capillaries pick up anything and everything that isn't fat. Anything that fat goes right up the middle, called lacteal. It goes up the middle, of course, gets broken down, goes across the boundary, and then back into your body. It's inside your body now, right? But it's in your lymphatic system. All fat you eat goes through your lymphatic system. If it doesn't get digested, it gets eliminated. We all know about that. But so all the fat in your body goes through your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system doesn't have any kind of mechanical force like a heart. So
Right.
only by body movement do you move lymph around. So you move the
Mhm.
lymph around, and for some of us, it pools down our legs, and we call it edema, and it can get really bad. And then by moving around, it gets moved up, and it gets put into little cisterns along the way, and eventually there's a great big one here, and then it gets dumped into the portal vein. That's what all this is about. So the portal veins would all come together, and then your liver can do the metabolic processes that it needs to take on that fat. Along the way, maybe some of the fat can be absorbed into areas that need it right away. But this whole system is a low pressure system. When your liver gets full of fat and you have fatty liver, which I have
Yep.
and had pretty significantly, well, that can cause like your air filter or like your dryer lint. I'll try to be as basic as I can, but
Yeah.
on your dryer, you got that little trap. If you don't pull the lint out, your clothes won't get dry.
Right.
So you pressure, and where does the heat go, right? Things of that nature. So, like if you don't clean out the long trap in your wall, you can end up with a house fire. So, well, in your body with that low pressure system, what happens is you start blocking things, and your portal vein will start to enlarge, and that's part of that portal vein hypertension. Now, it could also be that you have a downstream block, maybe in your spleen. Well, I was diagnosed with a large spleen. Splenomegalia, I believe is the word of it.
Mm.
So portal vein hypertension, fatty liver, and splenomegalia, enlarged thing. Now, I took issue with the doctors because a radiologist was looking at it, and the radiologist said, I'm looking at this thing, okay, and he doesn't know anything about me. Radiologist doesn't know I'm 4 foot tall or 8 foot tall, 100 pounds or 400 pounds, right? All they know is the numbers say the average liver is this big, the average spleen is this big, and mine exceeded. Well, at 6.5 foot tall almost, a lot of me is not going to fall into
Right.
normal. Anyhow, but I carried that diagnosis for a number of years. I also had I had really bad acid reflux that I ended up with strictures in my esophagus, and they had to go
Mm.
open them up. Esophageal strictures. It's
Yep.
called a Schottky ring. And basically, the French invented something where you just take a graduated broomstick and you shove it down the throat and open them up and hope you don't tear open everything. Yeah,
Yep.
nice. Anyway, let's get on to the meat and
That's a
potatoes.
scary thing though, that, my mother-in-law had that to
Mhm.
where she couldn't, like, swallow food because she had those strictures,
Yeah, they're
and
normally right about here, and
but
you
her
can't
food would get,
or
like, she couldn't swallow.
lodged. And
Yeah,
yeah,
get
and
lodged.
particularly meat like chicken and pork and bread. And then you're constantly making saliva and it can't go
Mhm.
down. And it feels like you think you're having a heart attack. Tuna
Mhm.
fish. Oh, yeah. So anyway, all that to say, I was metabolically unhealthy. And I could tell that my big waist, and I could tell now that I had the fatty liver for years, and now I got real problems because if your portal vein, if that thing pops, you're done. You're like an aneurysm, right? No
Mhm.
bueno.
Mhm.
Now, Carnivore had a purpose. Remember what I mentioned about when you have a medical scare? All right.
Yes.
Fast forward after all this time, my weight, not so hot, you know. By the way, hello, Arlene. My weight, not so hot. But I did get this past August, the VA had me seeing a hepatologist, not a
Mm-hmm.
herpetologist, a HEPA. Got to be careful. Anyway, the hepatologist, and they were looking at all the stuff, and they ran some tests, and they were like, "We don't know what happened, but you don't have portal vein hypertension anymore." Amen. And
What?
yeah, no, I've never seen that happen
That
before.
is
But yeah,
they had not seen that happen before.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
Wow. So it was another one of those sort of chronic incurable type of things.
I think it's. I think the a more accurate statement would be pretty much based on what Dr. Barry has said, is we really don't know what healthy looks like, or return to a state of health from dis-ease of the standard American diet.
Right.
So,
Yes.
I'm not going to say it was this miracle of miracles that never happened before. No, it
Mm.
probably could happen to everybody who can do it, and based if the issues are similar, and we have to be real careful because you can't just say that one size fits all.
Right.
So,
That's
so I got rid of that, and along the way, last year they said, as that was going away, they said, but here, bonus round, we're gonna give you cirrhosis. So I had a diagnosis from the radiologist of cirrhosis and liver surface nodularity. Yeah. And I was like, "No." And I did all the liver testing, your AST, your ALTs, they weren't bad. But guess what? You can have cirrhosis and have normal ALT, AST. Anyway, long story, they went through all the tests. They took a bunch of blood. They checked me for every uh, type of hepatitis you can possibly have. Some I didn't know you could have. Nope, 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 nope. And I just kept doing the carnivore, doing the carnivore, doing the carnivore. And yeah, no, I don't have the cirrhosis. I don't have the liver nodularity now. None of that. And no liver stiffness. So I'm thinking is if you get your liver too fat, it's kind of like trying to jam too much into a bag. Then you can't get your hand through the bag, right? So,
Mhm.
and all that fat was from all the fruitcake, eggnog, and sugary stuff. But not only that, I have an affinity for bread.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
anyhow, that's pretty much the medical front. Of course, I breathe better. I have asthma. I breathe better.
Mhm.
I, my asthma is not cured. I don't want to. I don't want to go out there, but I do know, and my wife has remarked that I can eat an um, an off-plan food, not much of it, just a little bit, and I can feel it in my joints. I can. She can hear it in my breathing.
Mm.
So I think what happens is for some of us, and I've heard the medical professionals who are in the space, I've heard them say, you may never get a reversal, but you can mitigate the symptoms. And
Right.
hey, look, I'm all about symptom mitigation at this juncture of my
Right.
life.
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. That is the same thing with me with like my CPAP. Like I have the reduction in the amount of events that I'm having per night is really significant. So for me, I am like I'm super I try to be really strict because of what you were saying about sticking with it is hard. So it's so hard for me that I mean, because I've done so many diets over the years, like
Hmm. Hmm.
so many diets, all the
Preach.
diets I can imagine. And I've gained and lost weight so many times that I'm not willing to even I'm scared to try, to be honest. I'm scared to try certain things because of having fallen off the wagon so very many times.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you same thought about it.
You know, I think that like with many things in life, life has a periodicity. You know, there's a flow, there's ebb and flow, right? So
Mhm.
there are probably times where being strict is going to be better. Like for me, it's better for me to start getting strict. Hey, how you doing there? It's better for me to uh, tighten it up before Halloween.
Mhm.
Because Halloween
Yeah.
starts Halloween starts it, you know? Um, so and the same approach for every aspect for me doesn't work, right? So that's one aspect of it, but I understand the need for in some areas to do to be very strict, but I have found that the more you try not to think about the elephant in the room, the more you think about the elephant in the room.
That's
So it's about it's about making a habit of checking yourself. I think we well, I know. So there's a part of your brain called the RAS. It's the reticular activating system. It's about the size of your thumb. It sits at the base of your brain, right? And it is the firewall for your brain.
okay.
So if you think about all your senses and all the information, all the smells, the tastes, the sights, the sounds, right? If your brain registered them and gave credence to everything you get, you'd go insane. So
Yes.
the brain has a way of saying, "Well, hey, you know," it's kind of like when you know how to drive home from work and you don't recognize you made it home and you realize I really didn't pay attention every minute of the way. It's because your brain, I got this, I got this. You don't have to, don't bother me. Or when you go out to buy a car and you look real hard, you say, "No, I want the powder blue 4-door, you know, with the leather interiors and the 19-inch rims, whatever it is, it's important to you, right?" And you
Right.
do it and you do all your homework and then you go to the car dealership and you go through all that and you finally get and you drive your car home and you realize there's a lot of cars just like yours on the road. Okay. So here's the situation. This is all proven by them doctors, people. But what happens is when you put importance on something like picking out a car you want because it's the second most expensive thing you'll ever buy, you're setting up a condition in your brain to recognize that pattern. Those cars were there before.
Mhm.
You didn't recognize it. Well, that's the same thing with our choices. You know, when we can start to learn to look at things and say, that doesn't have good outcomes for me. Donuts, you know, if you're an alcoholic, going into a bar may not be a good thing for you. So you learn these things and so you can recognize them before they come to you, right?
Yeah.
I think if we're always strict, though, we don't give give ourselves a chance for that learning to happen. We're denying that learning because we're so much in the denial. What do the doctors say about calorie deficit diets?
What do they say about calorie deficit diets? It depends on which doctor you ask. Our
What do
good
all
our good doctors in the carnivore space tend to say that calories are a like we don't burn calories like so that's not
right?
a real type of a thing. I can't give you their exact words, but
But
calories in,
in
calories out does not work because a calorie is not a calorie. And so
and calorie deficit starvation diets never work because you're going to get hungry and you're going to eat. You
right.
can't beat that, right? Unless you
Yeah.
have no one caveat. Okay, if you've got a an psychological challenge, right? Anorexia nervosis is real. That's not a
Right.
joke, right?
Exactly.
If you have something extenuating, okay, but for your average run of the mill person, right? You just can't beat hunger because everything in your body. We learn about ghrelin, and we
Right.
learn about these things, and we know you just can't beat it. So
Right.
I just think about that with strictness sometimes is important, but they've learned over time when we were children, if you hurt your elbow, they put you in a splint for a long time. And I realized that's not good. You lose mobility from it, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that about strictness. I think
Mm.
I think that there are. There are routines we can develop to rationalize, sit there and say, this is not the best for me. And I need to practice on that idea of not rationalizing to do some, but rationalizing to not do it. I know it's best for me to set the alarm 30 minutes earlier so I don't have to fight the traffic. I have a better day when I do that, right?
Yeah, right.
So I have to learn to sit there and say, what's important? And I think that's what happens in this space. And I think when you talked about how wonderful people are in this space, it's because so many of us have been through so much pain.
Yeah,
And I don't mean just physiological, but emotional pain. Um, and I think that we've been through the ups and downs of the multiple diets, and we know failure.
yeah.
And
Well,
so and so predicated on that, our common interests are extraordinarily interlinked.
mhm.
So it makes it much easier to overcome whatever else we might not hang out for whatever reasons. But it's like, oh, you overweight and you working hard to get back underweight or get back into condition or get healthy. I got you.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. Well, that's really good because, I know that, like, for me, the strictness comes from, like, touching the hot stove too many times. I've been trained. I've been trained well. Like, I can't. Oh, oh my goodness. Yeah. So, you, you know, touch that hot stove another time. It's like you already know you're going to get burned. So cut it
Right.
out.
But
Right.
don't you let me ask you this question. Don't you feel that in this space, um, the the medical community that participates with us is very supportive of us growing our personal knowledge bases?
Yes, absolutely. I think
So
that is a key element, actually.
yes, and so that leads to this idea of, when we grow up, we may be told things like, you'll tell a child to do A, B, or C, and the child will say, "Why?" And you'll say, "Because I told you so." I don't have the
Right.
time, the inclination, or the desire to explain all this. Or when I was in the military, first sergeant, why are we doing it? Sergeant, why are we doing it? Because I told you so. I don't have the time or the inclination. So but we do that. Think about this, Robin. Have you heard where when you walk into a room full of new people, you're at a conference or whatever, within about 8 seconds, you size a person up,
Mhm.
friend or foe, safe or unsafe. And you all use anything you can from the way they're dressed, the way they carry themselves, comport, the way they talk or don't, whatever. You use all these for out of safety, right?
Right.
Well, when we get to life where we're pretty safe here in the United States. Not everywhere, I realize that,
Yeah.
but you're fairly safe. So why are we still doing this safe, unsafe, friend or foe? And how much of our lives have we surrendered to because I told you so? And instead of saying, well, maybe I need to investigate this. Maybe I need to try to understand what's going on here. Like when we talk about metabolic issues, right? Now we know some more when to exercise. If you're going to be an accolade of Sean O'Mara, you're going to be sprinting, right?
Mhm.
So these
Right.
different things we start to learn, and that knowledge is empowering. But are we allowing it to be um, uh, or we giving it air in our all of our lives, so that we're not having to rely on things or trying to be delicate here. They're not my forte. Uh, but perhaps some of the things we hold on to are because we don't trust ourselves enough
Yep.
with it.
You're
And
right.
and in this community, I think one of the things I see the I don't see a focus on is giving yourself grace.
Yeah. Well, One of the things that I think about and I try to do too is these N equals one experiments
Hmm.
myself. So as you were talking about, the doctors and, I do find that there's a lot of what could be confusing information out there about how we should be eating, what should be we be eating, what kind of macros should we have, even like do calories matter or don't they matter? Do you need to be at a calorie deficit ultimately in order to lose weight? All these kinds of things. There's a lot of noise in the system, right? There's so much noise around the way that we should be eating. And so for myself, I like to do experimentation and
Hmm.
see. So, try it. See what happens if you do this or that. So for the last 3 months, I've been doing an experiment every single month, trying to see what actually does work with this body that I have, because everybody is not the same, right? And everybody, we're all similar. I think we all should be eating, um, a primarily meat-based way of eating. It's ancestral. It's the human condition, right? We need to have protein. We need to have fat, um, and we don't need carbohydrates. So with that, in that realm, in that space, what are the things that you need to do for your body to achieve the goals that you have? So whether it's weight loss or, ultimately health conditions or whatever is going on with you. So it might take, you might not be able to do exactly what another person is doing, which is what's so great about the carnivore community, because there's so many people out here doing different things and trying different things, right?
Hmm.
And everybody's not the same. So I think that's pretty profound.
And then you add into it for another layer of complexity. We are not the same day to day, month to month. And I think that's one of the things I've heard. You know, you'll see topics in this space that recycle, you know, and so one that I believe that needs to recycle is, okay, you've been doing this for a year or 6 months. The person you are today is not the person you were 6 months ago. So what you tried 6 months ago or 5 months ago and did not have success with may be successful for you now. So maybe you need to do a Dr. Boz sardine 3-day challenge, right? Maybe you don't. So it has that element of what you're talking about having a level of being in tune with yourself enough to know, and having chronicled along the way. I think chronicling is very important.
Mm,
Um, Chronicled, what did I do? Why, what didn't work? Or what are my theories of why it didn't work then? Right? Were you under a lot of stress?
mhm.
Was it a seasonal affect disorder? Right? Look, that's a real thing. If you're in the winter time and everything. So I think that there's a level of complexity that makes us shut down and go back to what I said, friend or foe, you know, safe or unsafe. We just sit there and say, I want the easy way.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. I mean, it's a design feature, but this is hard. So there's a young man I'm mentoring. I've been working with him and his grandfather, taking care of him. A lot of challenge. And I'm trying to help him understand. And he'll say to me, Mr. Scotty, why is adulting so hard?
Yes,
He's
it is.
19. He's doing some things at 19 that grown men have never had to do in taking care of his grandpa, right?
Mm,
But he's still got 19 stuff. And so he's asking me, and he's in love. And there's challenges everywhere, right? And I told him, I finally came to me, and I said, and he said, Mr. Scotty, why is adulting so hard? And I said, because it's worth it. And I
yeah.
think that's about us. When we have a little bit of grace and it is a lot of work, and it is going to be hard, and you are going to have bad days. I think we all know this. We're going to have, and maybe you'll have a bad season, right? I mean, it doesn't take much. Hey, your mom just passed away. You might be a little bent for a minute. You know what I mean? So don't beat yourself up. So I just think that the complexity of what we're trying to do demands from us things that we just aren't used to doing for ourselves. Hi, Lucia.
So happy you're here. She said she can hear, so I'm very happy about
Amen.
that.
I have my hearing aids in too.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So, it definitely can't. You need to be able to kind of think this thing through for yourself, figure things out. Don't be afraid to try things, experiment. I'm thinking about the lion diet. You were talking about how something might work for you, might not work for you 6 months ago,
Right?
but might work for you now after you've had some time for your body to do some healing, some
That's right.
time so for your internal systems to change somewhat. And so I did the lion diet and I felt awful on it. I felt awful on it for like I did it for 2 weeks and then I had to quit and add some pork in because I needed to have I don't know, I just didn't feel good on it. So but I have been considering trying it again because like you said, things change over time and your body can something that didn't work before could work now. Have you had any experience with anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think all of us have run the gamut in one way or another of finding like I reintroduced after listening to Paul Saladino, I reintroduced some fruit into the diet, and
Uh-huh.
and then I did the reading that said, hey, when you've been a carnivore for a long time and your body hasn't put a huge demand on your pancreas to and the beta islet cells to create insulin, and then all of a sudden you throw a big shot of sugar forming foods in there, right?
Yeah,
It won't respond. So you'll have a pseudo, you know, insulin resistance response. So I think that again, it adds to the complexity. If you don't know where you are, you don't know about your environment, and you start just willy nilly chucking things around,
right.
good luck in it. So that's I think one of the advantages that so many people in our community have is, I mean, they're tracking and they know and they're sensitive to it and they're open, like you said, I'm open to things and trying things. But again, as suggested earlier, each one of us is responsible and we have to be conscientious of what we're doing and look at it in a big, like I'm trying to say, in a more global way. But yeah, I've done everything severe. I can for a big guy, I can fast quite easily for 3 days, and I don't get a headaches or any of that stuff, and
That's
it
awesome.
but it doesn't always mean it's the best thing for me,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So, and it will never stop. I think that's the thing people don't realize sometimes. We may stop doing YouTubes, we may do something else, but you're gonna be eating, you're gonna be metabolizing, and hopefully sleeping, and we're gonna do that for the rest of our lives. So this doesn't stop, you know,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
eh, it's a very, very engaging.
Absolutely. All right. So, as you were talking, it just made me think about, faith. Like,
Yeah.
this is faith is a huge piece of the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about how your faith plays in and, just tell us a little bit about that piece of your life?
Okay, so I can go ad nauseum into faith. I can go that into anything. I'm gifted like that. No, but to keep it, at a level for an audience that may view this in a year and may come at it from a different vector, um,
Mhm.
when we talk about ourselves, we have our physical selves, we have our mental selves, and some component of a spiritual self, all right? And if if we're not, careful to tend to each of those areas, right? I think we would agree that that's when we find ourselves in our worst situations. If you want to say it's like a three-legged stool, you can do that. You can use whatever analogy works for you. But it's really hard to balance your life solely on your knowledge, right? It's hard to balance your life solely on your physicality.
Right.
Does it mean you can't enjoy some success for some time? No, of course not. It doesn't mean that one aspect doesn't take precedence over another at some time. Remember, I talked about that variability? No, but ignoring any one of the three will guarantee you discomfort and pain and loss. And so for me, I was a young man and I was a foolish young man, like so many. And I was dedicated to the worldly aspects. Um, I met my wife and I got saved. And we buried the old Scotty in a shallow grave in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And life has been different. For me, the conversion was not like this was me day one, this is me day two. It's been a gradual process, and now I dedicate a lot of my time to um, trying to understand those motivations in my life, particularly in the spiritual one. I am a born again Christian. I'm unabashed about it on my channel. I'm Southern Baptist by choice. I was raised Lutheran, but my parents were on an alcohol induced sabbatical for a bit of time. No, they just ran into some really bad times and it didn't really work great. So the thing is who I was as a child is not who I am as a man, and I have the choice, and I have the desire, and I have the need, and I have the demand to recognize that each and every day. So I work on my walk,
Mm-hmm.
but just like with this diet, you can have all the knowledge you want. You can be able to talk about the hot topic, the Randall cycle. You can talk about the Krebs cycle. You can talk about what happens in the mitochondria, and you talk about proton pumps and all. You can learn it all. You can know every muscle, joint, but how you take care of yourself. How many doctors do we see? Incredibly smart, educated people. How many of them do we see that are in terrible condition?
Yeah.
Right? Knowledge does not always equate to successful implementation. It can help. Well, the
Yes.
same thing I think is your faith. Whatever your faith is, right? You've got to work on it. And as you get older, and the things you thought that were important in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s fall away, and you realize in your 60s and 70s, like, wow, I spent a lot of time chasing something that bears no fruit. So it's the normal evolution of things. And so that's where I am. And so I think faith is huge, because if you are a faith-based person and you may think that your body is a temple, well, something's incongruent here. Now, there could be a lot of mitigating reasons, and not to say that people who are unhealthy are unwise and not spiritual. That's not to say that, but there is a component of it, and we are charged with understanding that as best we can.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Um, it's I'm gonna pop up a couple of these comments.
Okay,
Um,
I'm
so
reading too.
Sandra saying that's so true, which is why I backed off from watching these videos. But she's here because she had the
Amen.
phone in her hand when she saw the notice and she couldn't resist. And here we are talking
Yeah.
about faith and the Lord. I am also
Mhm,
a born again Christian, and I praise God for that. Thank Him for
mhm.
what He did in my life. Now I know that everybody's not a Christian, and that's okay. But God is good to me. That's what I'll say.
Hey, that's right.
And then Lucia says, I think if we didn't struggle, we would be our own God. True. Struggles are God loving us. I mean, sometimes it takes the struggle to actually get us to to look to God, or to seek after him because we're in a struggle. So yeah, that definitely is true. And you know, God does, he finds ways to make us acknowledge and recognize him. So
Good.
that's
Hey,
very, very true.
I'm mindful of comments of foxhole conversions and things, and I've often thought of, you know, uh, people who will say, "No, I got no time for that," this, that, another, whatever they say. And I said, "Well, in my head, I'm thinking somebody hurt you, somebody misrepresented to you. I get that, you know, um, but when you're in a problem and you go, 'Oh God,' or 'Why this?' You know what I mean? I'm going to go, okay, so maybe we could have a discussion, right?" I think it's very hard, and it demands a lot of compassion and grace, and anyhow, it's a very touchy subject with many people.
Yeah.
But I think for me, and this is me, I think that the grace, your maturity is tied to the amount of grace you can give to others. If you're so unyielding, right? I mean, if you think about it for a Christian, I've had in my head a cop, and I won't go on too much, but to sit there and say, who's your Sumerian? Who's
Mm,
your leper?
yeah.
Right? Because we innately, naturally have that.
Right.
And so you think about it, Jesus didn't shun or walk away from, and we really shouldn't either. It's about realizing our fears and our prejudices, and opening up our hearts. And it's a challenge. It's not easy. You're not going to be successful every minute of every day.
Right. That is awesome. I mean, I was just thinking about, the ability to have empathy and care for others. That's what Christ did, right? Is
That's
that he loved. And so that's what we are called to do. So Arlene is, and we're going to pray for Arlene. It says, God help me. I prayed for 2 years when I was at 287 pounds, and I prayed to lose weight and for him to change me to want to lose weight, and has lost 77 pounds with low carb and carnivore by God's grace. Congratulations,
Amen.
Arlene. We're going to continue to lift you up in prayer for sure, because God is so amazing. And I really feel, and Scott, you can tell me if you agree with this. I feel for me that God has revealed himself in this way, to let us know about getting back to what it is that he has provided for us to eat. And we're eating a lot of chemicals on the standard American diet. If you go through the center aisles of the grocery store,
Mhm.
there's nothing in there that's actually food. It's all chemicals and it's all highly processed, and not really fit for human consumption. So I feel that God is revealing himself in this way, in this season, to let us know, like, okay, so what you're doing is not working. If you look all around you, see everybody's sick, all these chronic diseases that you never saw, 50, 60 years ago. You didn't see kids with diabetes. It was called, adult onset diabetes. Type 2 diabetes was. There was no kids with it. But now we see, and then, even just if I think about back to the days when I was in school, elementary school, that there were not a lot of overweight kids back then, right? And so I really do believe that this is what he's showing and revealed. This is one of the ways that he is bringing about revival
But
for human beings in this season.
I am in absolute agreement with you. But as I'm wont to do, I'd like to leave you with some thoughts. Okay. So is God surprised or unaware of anything? Okay. We agree. Um, let's take the topic of microplastics. Was God unaware of it?
No.
Did he not know? Okay. You know about your DNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that scientists have a name for the majority of your DNA. Do you know what the name for the majority of your DNA is? Junk.
No.
If you no, seriously, if you get off this, when y'all get done, go to the Googler
Okay.
and go look up junk DNA.
Okay.
So I don't remember exact percentages, but I'm gonna say it's a little bit is what they understand, a whole bunch they don't understand. And this junk DNA is just there.
Interesting.
And I thought to myself, if God is not unaware and we are ignorant, okay, it isn't that God hasn't considered this. If you think 300 years ago, we didn't have penicillin. We didn't have some disease, but we had a need, right? Now we have penicillin. So God made that available. So I think that there's a, I want to say to what you said before about the center aisles, truth. That's, I believe, wickedness in the world through the idea of greed. I'm trying to make something for you, so I make money off you. Okay, so duck, duck, go, beautiful, got it.
Yep.
But the idea is that for me is there are things that you have to be able to discern, because discerning is an extraordinarily important aspect of your life that you need to develop. You
Right.
can discern that this is junk, but there's other stuff like overly sweet apples. They're still natural. Okay, so I just tell people with a grain of caution to consider that. I know we're going over. I apologize.
That's okay. No, as long as you've got, we'll talk for a few more minutes.
Sure, sure.
Absolutely.
Hello, Sharon. But in part, someone said here about DuckDuckGo. So
Mhm.
DuckDuckGo, I think, goes to using either MSN or what's the Microsoft browser. So people think by going to this that not it um, saving you from some of the issues, but that's not necessarily in the IT world exactly what you think. I'm not an IT person, but I buy and sell a lot of it, so I hear a lot of it, for the federal government. So it's something I'm tangentially aware of.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So, I'm gonna go to a couple of first of all, I wanna just say thank you to a couple people, Passion
Yeah.
Speak. Um, thank you so much for becoming a member of my channel. I really do appreciate that, and, welcome. And then also Cena Nails, thank you so much becoming a member of the channel. I welcome you as well. Um, so there's a question out here, and this is something that I don't know the answer to. I wonder if you are aware of anything. I definitely can do some research for Lucia to see if is anyone running groups working the 12 steps for carnivores.
That can be unpacked into a lot when you say 12 steps, like the process of of recognizing, engaging, planning, employing, and maintaining a carnivore or a carnivorous lifestyle. I think that you can go into Dr. Barry's world and find that, or any one of the number who is that, the steak and butter gang,
Yeah, steak and
you
butter
know.
gang.
Yeah,
We
I'm
also
sure there.
have I'm just going to mention this because we have started a new group. The Fierce Felines have started a new
Oh,
carnivore community on Marco Polo, and it's called Felines Carnivore Life. And so it's not a 12-step program, but it is a very great community to come into for support. So what we're looking for here is a support group. And
right.
so if you're interested in checking that out, it's part of my membership group. And you can check that out by, clicking the join button. It'll tell you all about the different levels that I have. But the Felines Carnivore Life is the one that is an actual group. It's a 24/7 access to the fierce felines. Myself, G Brown, the lifestyle
Yeah,
changer,
yeah.
and Laura Russell, our
All right,
nurse.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a really good group. So it's not a 12-step group, but it's definitely a community that you can check into and see if you would be interested in that. So what we're talking about, I think what you're talking about is having a supportive community. And so many of us are doing this out here. Like you just mentioned, Bella, the Steak and Butter Gang. There's a lot of different, communities that are out here and support groups that you could become a part of. So hopefully
Sure.
you find your tribe. That would be awesome.
I think there's a lot of standing uh, live shows also, which you can get into because I know I've been in a few, and I know I'm happy to get in there and chat it up with folks and do the
Yes,
thing like that.
yes.
So that's a tribe, but like I paid to be in Dr. Barry's tribe,
Me too. I do too.
and good enough, great information, but I don't know that I'm gonna maintain it because, well, as we spoke beforehand, um, uh, YouTube is a harsh mistress. And she demands time of you. And I thought
Yes.
about, oh, I want to be a YouTuber and I want to go make that money, for 1 hour a week, and right. And then, you're 40 hours into it, your eyes are bleeding. You don't want to see anything. No one
Can't
should be
sleep.
around you. Right. You're thinking of stuff all the time. And there's no money on the other end of that yet. Right. Now, some
Right.
people get it. I want people to do it. I'm not dissuading people to do it. I just did the old fashioned. I went and got a job, um, but I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work it for much longer. But I actually got a job, and I want to go back to things like I like. I have a hobby. I like photography.
Oh,
I like
nice.
photography and do some art stuff. And I sit here some days and I whittle like little mushrooms and stuff like that.
Oh,
And all these little nitnoid things. But y- a YouTube channel can dominate your life. I just saw Carnivore Kip saying, "Hey, got to take a step back. Got that
yep.
little darling girl. You got to take care of. You got to
That's his
concentrate
baby.
on deer hunting
Mhm.
and a 5K, right?" So
Yep.
it's a tough world if you want to be an influencer. But if you
Right.
just want to be a friend, a supporter, then I mean, I love to see the love we have here tonight. I see the people here, and I think that the carnivore community is very, very blessed and fortunate to be with people who have, like we said earlier, been through the hard times that all of us have shared in our own unique ways, but we can relate, and
Mhm.
and we're pulling and we want to be supportive for folks.
Absolutely. I'm gonna share your channel real quick.
Oh, go ahead. That couldn't hurt to get one or two, maybe
Mhm.
three more folks in there.
See,
I mean,
here
it's
we
very
go.
simple channel.
So I found you, Scott. You were doing late night with Scotty, and I
Mhm.
was like so intrigued. Just on there talking regular. I love it so much. So,
Oh, just
can you
you're
tell us
too
a little
kind.
bit about your channel?
Oh, well, again, it's just a rudimentary channel. I'll put up some videos on sometime, like you can see on my liver disease and medical stuff. I'll do some of the shorts like that. I
Mhm.
like to do that type of thing a little bit here and there. And then I'll make videos, and you could tell by the exquisitely complex thumbnail. Uh, hey, look,
Your
I used to.
thumbnail is actually really, really good. I like it.
Well,
It's
it's
super good.
simplistic. I have a little area to put some stuff in,
Yeah.
but I'll just talk about whatever happens to be the fruit of the day, I mean, it's
Mhm.
just maybe I should say fruit, that was a faux pas. The meat stick
The
of the
beef
day.
of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But a smorgasbord. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a
Yeah,
smorgasbord
love
of,
it.
of topics. And I like to do the late nights, or I used to do the late nights. Maybe I can do them again just
Yeah.
to give people an opportunity. Matter of fact, I think it's the first time, I think maybe Todd Bachnis had talked, first time Limitless Lindy had talked online was in one of those lives. Not because I want to gain notoriety for it, but it's pretty much you won't find much more than maybe 30 people ever, and then normally about a dozen, and we can talk about whatever motivates us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for what you do out there, and hopefully I would, like, wake up at night and see Scott on, and I'm like, "Okay, let me just go in and see what he's talking about tonight." That's how I found out about Dune. I was like, "What? This is so
Yeah.
crazy." That was
Yeah.
just really, really cool.
And if all of you
So
all go out there, if all of you go out there and look for that Bermuda web series, that'd be awesome for
yes.
the director writer guy. Again, I helped him. I was a sound guy and set dresser for a movie he did. It was a prequel, and I told him, I said, "Hey, he's a big fella too." And he says to me, he says, I said to him, "If you ever want to do a fight scene with a guy, I used to be a bouncer, did the military thing. If you ever want to do a fight scene or something, let me know, because I'm not like your typical twiggy actor." And he
Mhm.
looked at me and he goes, "Yeah, okay, thanks. Like, then don't call me, I'll call you." So anyway, time goes by, and also I get a phone call. "Hey, yeah, you said you wanted to fight. You want to fight? Sure." We went ahead, we did the scene, and next thing you know, he's like, "Okay, now you'll be in each of these episodes going forward, because we have a good reaction to a big angry guy doing stuff." So it's a kind of fun. No, not a rock star. No, 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 no. Uh,
So
I'm just a regular guy.
I'll put a link to that. Is it on Apple TV?
It's in a lot of things. Apple TV. You can find some on YouTube Land. Um,
Okay.
yeah, different pay things. And again, not me. I'm just a bit actor in it. Okay, but
Right.
it's done quite well with on the international film festival scene, Italy, France. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I don't treat that gentleman too well. The one you see in the back of his head. Yeah, he and we have a pretty tough scene. Episode 3 is where I come in, and
Okay.
it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. So I'm gonna check it out for sure. I'll make sure that I put a link to it um in my show notes for this show. That is
Thank you.
so cool. I just love the fact that you're doing that. It's absolutely
Hey,
awesome.
you're never too old to follow your dreams and to do things. And I think that when I went and got elected, you show up. I just tell people, show up at whatever you're trying to do, and you'll do better than most people who are in that space. You just have to show up.
Yep. Absolutely. So we are going to wrap it up, but I'd like to give you the last word. So can you just tell us what is on your heart to share with the community that we haven't already talked about?
Well, we've talked about the things that are in my heart, and that is, show yourself some grace and try to keep yourself aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and reach in or reach out to find a source for more of that. And I think if that becomes the predominant focus of your day-to-day life, things will improve. I'm mindful of a saying I've heard where, for a believer, uh, you may not be put in a different situation, but you will be changed in the situation you're in.
Yeah.
And that wraps up to that. That all gets summed up to saying, um, there are very important things afoot that are beyond just our physical body. It's important, but to know about your body, but the world will eat you up, will spit you out, and not give a large rodent's rectum about you, you know? So find out what does.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you guys, we want to say thank you to Scott for being here with us tonight. And we're going to let you go. We will see you guys next time. Bye,
Take
everybody.
care. Bye bye.